I usually read something and talk about it. I mean, we all know what they do and the weird shit they do and the terrifying things they implicate. And how some people who weren't ready for that kind of shit it really hurt them. And that's what it was intended to do. When you mobilize in that fashion, what it's intended to do is hurt people. But it's sort of preemptive strike in some cases too, like learn about Hitler Youth and Stasi and ratting on their neighbors as to who's Jew and who's not, and who's this guy's Jewish and the basement and blah blah blah. It's pretty serious actually. It's usually associated with detrimental character. What I have for you this evening is a little bit different. It's for your consideration. How you apply it or whether or not it makes any sense to you. I'm sure it will if you're dealing with this stuff. So I'm going to get into it. It's the Wikipedia entry for petty tyranny. Petty tyranny, or petty authority, or a petty dictator, or a petty power is authority exercised by a leader, usually one unchosen by the led, in a relatively limited or an intimate environment, such as that exercised by a fellow peer of a social group. It is a pejorative term, which means it's a negative term. It carries with it a sense of authority that was gained or is used in an unfair or capricious manner. Ashforth discussed potentially destructive sides of leadership and identified petty tyrants, leaders who exercised a tyrannical style of management, resulting in a climate of fear in the workplace. He proposed the following 6 characteristics to define petty tyranny: arbitrariness and self-aggrandizement, belittling of subordinates, lack of consideration of others, a forcing style of conflict resolution, a discouragement of initiative, non-contingent use of punishment. Now, that's the overview. Now, that's from Ashcroft. There are other references for this. In fact, the next one I'm going to read is Petty Tyrant. I guess you can. No, we'll see. Castaneda. I think they have a links from there too. So this is it was on here before. Let me try another search. Yes. The Cass wiki. See now, Castaneda, I think, gee, is that his own wiki? See, that's pretty cool, Carl, right? Petty tyrant is a term that comes from the books of Carlos Castaneda. The seers believed that a tyrant was in charge of the world. On earth, then, impossible people in positions of authority which one has to deal with in life were assigned the classification of petty tyrants. There's different classifications in Castaneda's. There's subcategories from a novel called the fire from within. Now, the tyrant, the primal source of energy and the one and only ruler of the universe, compared to the source of everything, all other kinds of tyrants are infinitely below this category. Petty tyrants. Tyrannical rulers or authoritarians who actually wield power over the life and death of others. Minor petty tyrants. Tormentors who can be fearsome and inflict misery, but who do not hold any real power over the life and death of others. There are two subcategories. Little petty tyrants. These are further divided into four categories according to the means that they use to torment others. Those who use violence and cruelty, those who create unbearable apprehension through deviousness, those who oppress with sadness, and those who provoke rage. Teensy-weensy or small fry petty tyrants, tormentors who are just exasperating, bothersome to no end, and annoy to distraction. The hierarchical structure is analogous to the service to self-hierarchy in the Gangstalking material. And we're going to jump into that. The service to self-hierarchy. Now, Gangstalking is a little bit different. I don't know if any of you guys are at all familiar with it. Get a background in it, but for right now, it's just this particular entry, the service to self-hierarchy. Now, for a system where all participants seek to maximize their own power and position, a pyramidal hierarchy is the natural resulting configuration. Self-serving beings, such as humans, realize that in order to more effectively serve themselves, they must cooperate with other similar beings. This cooperation is based on an idea of opportunistic alliance if direct domination is not possible. Also, the necessity of hierarchy is in such a system explained as the only alternative to a state of anarchy where each exclusively serves their own short-term advantage. In such systems, the most ruthless and opportunistic elements rise to the top. Cultivating a code of clan allegiance with progressive gradation of social position is a typical stabilizing mechanism in such a system. This may be coupled with a personality cult. Having fought out an internal pecking order, the service to self-hierarchy turns to the outside for sustenance and plunder. It must feed itself by absorbing more food, which may be, depending on the case, temporal or spiritual power, wealth, new members, etc. Examples of such organization are found everywhere, from organized crime to military government, secret societies, street gangs, and so forth. These organizations always suffer from a degree of internal entropy, and the participants only seldom work seamlessly together, since they, at least in principle, may on the lookout for a possibility of double-crossing one another or being double-crossed themselves. The Gangstalking stuff's pretty interesting, and there's a lot of different ways to get that stuff out of context, but the whole of it's a whole nother story. I just wanted to say once again that even though it seems like I would change after some of the things that people have done to me, the other night somebody tried to pull my teeth out of my head. All right, now I'm hoping you guys aren't having contact with the kind of people that do this kind of stuff, but because of the nature, just it's just impossible to explain to you guys how I got in with these guys, how I got into it, and why they tried to take I have my grill. They took my grill. It was for the diamonds, but their particular diamond, and they tried to take my teeth out of my head too. But and I'm always a provocateur. That's why I had to speak up about this stuff, is because I'm I have no question that this is what's going on. I understand what's going on because I provoke. I I don't let people sit on their seething cowardice. I provoke them, and malice revealed. It's it's unbecoming. I think that kind of cowardice, seething, cowardly, backstabbing, shady fuckers. You gotta keep them in spurs, and you gotta hear them jingling all the way around the fucking corner because you never know what they're up to. Shit. You know what I mean? They're just not really good. It's a bad culture. I mean, there are things about this culture that are so sorely degraded and malformed that some of those barbarisms are even unheard of in the Dark Ages. But we live in strange times indeed. There was one more thing I wanted to say to you before I went. Oh yeah, is that I have to be myself, and sometimes it doesn't work out for me. Um, but I'm not gonna stop being myself. I'm not like really. I'm not. I compromise. I mean, so why would I stop being myself if I have a malleable and adaptive personality? You know, the only thing about me that doesn't change is that I'm always changing a little bit. But I'm Jack, you know? And I have to respond as that person no matter what. And I make no attempt to appear as or seem as anyone else. I always try to be authentic and real, 100% me about what I do. And I see when I started paying close attention to a lot of different people who release these videos, complaining about being targeted, complaining about, different things that come with it. And when I get the big, broad picture of it, it's just like I say, in a way, it's the same. It's been like that for a long time, and there's only so much I can say about it that people care about. So if I'm just to tell someone these things that I want, I'm trying to convey something. I'm trying to think carefully how to say it. If I just say these things to you, would that change your mind? And the people who are already having these problems, for the most part, just hearing me say those things one more time to them will not change their mind. But you have to set yourself free. You have to be able to see things for exactly as they are. It's your responsibility. Now, people who are cruel or unthinking or outstandingly thoughtless, they're not going to help you. They're not going to look at you and see you, and then they're going to see something else. And it's sad, because when I see some of the folks that this happens to, I'm like, these are really beautiful people. These are really important people. And there's something else going on that maybe I wasn't ready for in this. But all things are possible with God. And there's nothing. There's just nothing beyond reality to me. Like anything you can, all your greatest imaginations. With the one thing that's actually happening, that's the thing. That's the moment. That's the ultimate. All the could have beens, if the could have beens were, all the what ifs, all those things exist in the moment, but they take up so very little bit of it if you're doing it right, because the moment itself is the ultimate, and this is what we share. I wish we were together, and I wish for love, and love. Before I go, love has the lion's share, and it doesn't matter whether it hurts me or not. And that's just the way it is. And I try to do I used to try and ask myself, am I thinking of the people who love me for every decision that I made? But now I'm completely alone, so I hardly ever ask that question anymore. There, that was personal. I love you guys. Have a good night.